David.
Thank you, John. So how many of you out there have teenagers in your family? By hands. Well, we have a lot of teenagers represented out there. Let me ask you, how many of you are parents of teenagers? The same hands grow up? A bit fewer. How many of you ever feel like you're losing your mind? Yeah. How many of you ever feel like your kids are losing theirs? Yeah, well, what we know today is that teens aren't actually losing their minds. I don't know about yours, but teens aren't losing their minds. During the years from 12 to 23, their adolescent brains are undergoing some very significant rewiring and change. And in fact, during that period, they're absolutely wired to make decisions based on short-term rewards, immediate rewards. They really have almost no sense of long-term gains or consequences. There's some evolutionary benefit to all this, and I could explain that in a much longer presentation. But in the here and now, that's what's going on when your kids do something that's just absolutely unbelievable to your mind. And you look at them, you look in their eye, and you say, "Good heavens, what were you thinking?" Ever say that before? Yeah. Well, today, kids are thinking a lot about school, for one thing, and unfortunately, way too many of them are thinking about dropping out. In fact, if I can get this clicker to work, in fact, 7,000 U.S. students drop out of school every single day, every day of the week. That's 1.2 million kids a year. The consequences on their lives are catastrophic. Dropouts are far more likely to engage in high-risk behaviors. They're far more likely to be involved in criminal activities and be incarcerated. And unbelievable as this sounds, their absolute lifespans are 9 years shorter than their comparable high school graduating friends. The consequences for society is catastrophic as well. First of all, we lose all that human potential for our future society. And the economic impacts are startling and not sustainable. $11 billion a year on increased family assistance in families of dropouts. $17 billion a year on increased medical assistance in families with dropouts. And we lose $300 billion a year to the U.S. economy because of related unemployment from dropouts. What's really going on here? We love to back up from kids and say, "You're lazy," or "You're just not motivated enough," or we know that dropouts often come from homes of poverty. That's an explanation. Or in those same homes, maybe one or both parents are absent. Or maybe English isn't the first language spoken in that home. Or there's not an adult model who's graduated from high school, him or herself. But what we're finding out in research today is that the nature of schooling, the organization of schooling itself, is as much responsible for the dropout rate as are those personal and family characteristics of students. So if we look a little bit deeper into the data on dropouts, we find another startling fact. A third of these kids who drop out, 34%, drop out because of a simple schedule conflict between the traditional days and hours that schools normally operate and between their need to work to assist their families or to actually provide home care for elders in the family, for their younger siblings or their own children. We put these kids at this young age right into the middle of a moral and ethical dilemma. Do they continue their education, which, by the way, they often say, well, that would be selfish? Or do they drop out of school so they can take care of their family? If you were in that situation, what decision would you make? Where does this pressure come from? From a traditional schedule that evolved well over 100 years ago in this country when we were trying to get a workforce ready for the industrial age. We keep doing this year after year after year. We need somebody to come along and shake our shoulders and look us in the eye and say, "What are you thinking?" It's really on us. We really need to do something about this. So, if you will, with me this afternoon, imagine something very different. Imagine if we created schools that fit our children instead of trying so hard to force fit our kids into a school. What if we think about those kids that are dropping out? What if we would just open the American high school 7 days a week, 10 or 12 hours a day, and year-round? How many of you are thinking that's not going to work? Well, what if we did? What if we allowed those kids to meet with advisors and create their own customized schedules that worked around these other responsibilities they have in their life? Well, now we've got a physical setting where kids are coming and going and are required to be there 36 hours a week, but they're coming and going based on their own personal schedules instead of some preordained bell schedule. What would that look like? How would you manage that? How would you organize instruction in that kind of environment? Biology at 10 o'clock every morning just doesn't work in that kind of a school. Well, have you heard about USC Hybrid High? So in this project, we're not just tinkering with the nature of schooling. We're rebuilding it from the ground up. We're going to create and open a high school that's open that 7 days a week, 10 or 12 hours a day and year-round. We're going to allow those students to come in, sit with advisors, customize their own schedules, and personalize a learning plan based on their previous achievement and the kind of help they need today. These kids will come to us, we hope, dedicated and determined to graduate from high school, prepared both for success in the workplace or success in higher education. And if they'll make that commitment to us, we'll make the commitment that we're not going to let anything get in their way. No excuses. So with all that extra time, we actually have a lot of opportunity we can provide these kids to learn in different ways. One is they'll be able to engage with certified college preparatory online courses and master those courses at their own rate. If they go slowly, that's fine. If they take a test 3 or 4 times, that's just fine. The goal is hit that mastery level with that course. They'll have time to engage in very significant challenge-based projects where they can learn 21st century skills and rehearse those skills over and over again. They'll be able to get involved in community-based projects and learn from those projects something about empathy and something about civic responsibility. And of course, they'll have lots of extra time to catch up on those very fundamental reading, math, and language skills that have actually been holding them back for way too long. So these kids meet every week with an advisor, and they plan out the next week's agenda based on real-time data about what they've achieved or what kinds of difficulties they've had in the current week. And in that way, they can speed up where they can, or they can slow down and get special assistance where they need it. We're doing this all on a hybrid model. And using this hybrid technique, we're actually able to pull off this expanded vision of schooling on the very same tax dollar that is available to any charter school in the state of California. I wish we were doing this in New Jersey. We'd have lots of extra money. So from the get-go, this project is replicable, it's scalable, and very, very important, it's sustainable on tax dollars, even in California. It's important for me to just say a few words about what we mean by hybrid, because this word gets used very differently depending on who's using it. In our instance, we mean that our students are coming to school, they're working in a school, but they're using both online and on-site teachers and other instructional resources. We mean by hybrid that we're addressing both social, emotional, and academic growth, because we believe those two things are so tightly combined and integrated, you really can't have one without the other. And lastly, we're using digital techniques and motivational techniques with these kids, but we're also making sure that they're going to have very important hands-on experiences for deep learning. So if we can open this kind of school, and we will, we can imagine that these kids who are busy rewiring their brains, because we now know that's what they're doing, can do that in an environment that's characterized by challenge, by curiosity, by fun, by achievement. And in so doing, they're going to get those immediate rewards that they crave, but they'll also be laying down a longer-term pathway to success. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to imagine this different kind of school with me this afternoon. And please, I implore you to keep imagining new and better ways to change the game for high-risk students wherever they live. Thank you.